Hello guys, hope you're all having a great weekend. Today we're going to be taking a look at the future of Battlefield 5 and the franchise in general, and how I feel that DICE and EA have got some big decisions to make. I was inspired to write this by my recent visit to DICE earlier this week to discuss BF5. I don't usually mention these types of events as they're typically under a non-disclosure agreement, meaning that you can't talk about them publicly, and I don't want to come across like I'm bragging. I realise that I'm very lucky to do these kind of things. But on this occasion we were allowed to say that we were going there to play Firestorm, record some gameplay of that and give feedback on the new game mode and Battlefield 5 in general, where they are now, where we felt DICE had tripped up with the game, and also where it's going to be in the future. Firestorm gameplay and impressions, that video will be coming soon. We know that the release date is 25th of March, so expect that in the near future. Now, some of the stuff that I saw at the event I'm not allowed to talk about specifically or go into detail. However, one great thing about events like these is that you actually get several hours to spend chatting to and discussing the game with the developers, the men and women who make these games. And through those conversations you can learn and understand why certain things are the way they are in the game and in the engine. Things that from an outsider's perspective, your average Battlefield player, let's say, who follows the news and patch notes will see and perhaps go, that doesn't really make much sense. Why don't DICE do it this way instead? The biggest takeaway I got from what I learned there was that A, DICE and EA could still do a whole lot better at communication with the player base. B, the engine and programming that they're using at the moment is absolutely holding back their game design and player usability. And C, in my opinion, they've got some really big decisions to make about what the Battlefield franchise is and what exactly BF5 is as a product and where it's going. Some might say, oh, this stuff doesn't matter, it's just a game, but I'm passionate about this franchise and I enjoy playing it, and I know that there are many others out there who feel the same way too, and I want to give my feedback. I'll address those 3 points separately now though. A, communication could be a lot better. What do I mean by this? Well, I feel that for the most part, to their credit, DICE has definitely been more communicative in the last 6 months than they've ever been in the past. We get weekly updates on Reddit and on the forums about BF5. Some of the developers are active on Twitter and replying to comments. Apparently the dev talks are coming back too. The patch notes are getting quite robust and well presented now. That's good. However, more transparency and explanation is needed right now, more specifics. Being at these feedback events and talking to the devs one-on-one, they really open up and go into detail about why certain mechanics are the way that they are, what the limitations are within the game, the engine, the UI problems, the way assignments work, the way transport vehicles spawn into the game, whatever it might be. And it's the stuff that you see as an outsider and you go, hang on, that seems like a weird design decision to most people, or why can't I do this? It's simple, right? It's in other games and it works fine. Why isn't it like this in BF5? And when someone explains to you how that stuff actually works, it starts to make a bit more sense and you begin to think of ways to compromise. Now, I'm not saying that that is a good excuse for things that don't work or don't make much sense in the game. Stuff like assignments, for example. Ideally, come on, we all know that they should be tracking all of the time and you should be able to enable them mid-round. It's frustrating as a player that you have to leave a server and then go back to the main menu to enable a new assignment for it to start tracking. DICE know that, but the audience, the public who are playing your game, don't know why it's like this, and it leads to people getting annoyed, scratching their heads and throwing shade at DICE, saying that they're incompetent. So coming out and explaining things in detail and putting it at the front end of the product, the reasons why things are the way that they are and what you're going to do to change or fix them or find a compromise would be a good move in my opinion. I wish you guys could have heard what I heard at this event, and I think that they should make that kind of information public. But assignments is just one example. Whatever it might be, I just feel like more intricate explanation and communication with specifics and detail would go a long way. Your audience aren't idiots. So DICE needs to talk with more specificity and be more personable. It's a big problem that EA and DICE have in general. There's no public face, no relatability. When you think of DICE and EA, you think of a man in a suit on stage, and that's not good. Communication with the player base could be a lot better, no doubt about that. More roadmaps and carrots on the end of sticks would be good as well. And keep in mind that this goes both ways. If you're making a YouTube video or replying to a dev on Twitter, Reddit, wherever, be respectful, and they're much more likely to engage in a conversation with you if you're polite and put your thoughts and opinions across in a well presented manner. You're much more likely to get a decent answer that helps explain the situation. Now, on to point B. I think that the engine and programming that DICE are using at the moment is absolutely holding back their game design and player usability. At this point, it's quite clear to me, in my opinion, keep in mind that I'm not a dev on the game, that whatever design route they've gone with the programming of Battlefield 5, the logic, the engine version that they're using, in many aspects is holding back their ability to deliver a solid gameplay and overall good user experience. It feels like there are so many limitations here, and the foundation that they've built BF5 on is unstable. DICE are shooting themselves in the foot, and this needs to be changed, and I think it should be a focus. And we can only speculate, is this due to time constraints, bad design, bad programming, whatever. The point is, it's not working well and it should be improved. Finally, point C, and this is the most important one from my perspective. DICE have got some really big decisions to make on what the Battlefield franchise is and what exactly Battlefield 5 is as a product and where it's going. What do I mean by this? Well, I think that DICE have an excellent opportunity here to make the ultimate World War II multiplayer first-person shooter. They really do. So let me put forward two hypothetical scenarios for you and think about which one sounds more appealing. Scenario number 1. DICE support and create new content for Battlefield 5 for 2 years maximum, as is typical with their Battlefield games. The core team is scaled down a lot, they add a few new maps, some new guns, game modes, maybe a new faction, and then in October 2020, Battlefield 6 or whatever it's called releases. That's what they've been focusing on, and they don't touch BF5 again after those 2 years. And BF5 sells around 13 million copies in total. Scenario 2. DICE and EA agree to do things differently with BF5, do something brave, bold and exciting, and take advantage of the shift of the games industry towards focusing on live service models rather than delivering another new product after a couple of years. They support and create new content for BF5 for 5 or 6 years instead, and they add multiple theatres of war. The Eastern Front, the Pacific, Italy, China. They expand on North Africa. They add in the American army, the Russians, Japanese, French. They add most of the iconic battles, tanks and weaponry of World War II. Firestorm becomes a regularly updated addition to the game with new maps and content. They update the engine and do a complete overhaul of the assignments and medal system. RSP is added with full functionality. Perhaps there's even a competitive element in here too. And Battlefield 5 over time becomes the ultimate World War II multiplayer shooter, just packed full of content and evolving gameplay. Isn't it obvious? I know what I would choose, and I bet that I know what most gamers would too. But the biggest problem here that I see is that something like Scenario 2 would require a huge shift in the way that DICE and EA operate. But it's not like that's been working that well for BF5 so far, is it? Apex Legends could be the tipping point for EA to think differently about their developer teams. I hope so, and I really want DICE to be brave and commit to this game rather than just moving on to whatever is next. To support a 5 to 6 year dev time though, well, that costs money, and the cosmetics in this game would need a complete overhaul. The current offerings are lackluster and boring. Weapon skins, character skins and models need to be way more unique and interesting before people will put down real money for them. And I think that they should shift their focus to purchasable special animations rather than skins for BF5 unless they really work on them. Modular vehicle customization would go a long way too for generating money and would certainly be popular. Now you might say, well Jack, that sounds like a pipe dream, but I don't think it is. Look at Rainbow Six Siege, they've done it. Look at Fortnite, free to play, biggest game in the world, supported by a robust live service and microtransactions that will go on for years. Apex will be the same, so why not BF5? It's just going to take a leap in the deep end to get there, but I believe that they can do it, and DICE and EA have to decide what this franchise is now. Is it just something that's developed on a 2-year cycle to keep the investors happy and always light on content at launch and not that much innovation in the gameplay, and it's always fun but full of bugs and annoying issues? That's a real fast and easy way to lose your dedicated fan base and not pick up any new ones. Or is it a franchise that when a new Battlefield game releases, it means something and it's supported for many years and respected by the fans in the gaming industry alike? I would love that, but we'll see. I just think that DICE have a real opportunity here if they make the right call. And that's all I've got, guys. Do let me know your thoughts on this down in the comments below. What's your opinion on the matter? Let me know. Either way, guys, if you enjoyed the video, give me a like. If you didn't, a dislike, subscribe for more, and I'll see you in the next one.